Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I'm on my phone as well because my camera decided to quit this morning. Perfect time for this. Well, hello, and thank you for the opportunity to chat with you guys. I am the co-founder and CEO of a social enterprise in Detroit called Reloveution. I'll give you a little bit about my background before I jump into the presentation. I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm a women business owner. I never in a million years set out to do this. It wasn't what I thought I'd be doing in life, but here we are. My dream as a young girl, probably like the age of 14, is I wanted to be the first female general manager of a Major League Baseball team. And I set out with that in mind. I went to college and then tacked on a law degree and then an MBA solely to have that well-rounded brain to compete on what I call the no girls allowed side of baseball. I ultimately got the opportunity and I came to Detroit in 2007 after, a host of rejections. I still have a stack of rejection letters at my parents' house from all the baseball teams that I applied to. I had a mentor at one point in time who I actually thought was going to be the major door opener for me tell me, "Oh, honey, your best bet is to marry a player," which we all love when people start out with, "Oh, honey." Um, and then, so I spent 11 years working for the Detroit Tigers. I was ultimately associate counsel for them, the first female associate counsel they ever had. And it was an amazing opportunity. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for what I learned and also who it made me. But there were certainly still a lot of challenges being a woman in the sports industry, particularly with my ambitions. And that was really limiting. It was a very challenging organization to be a part of as far as that goes. But at the time, I was living right next door to a well-known shelter in Detroit called COTS. COTS is an incredible organization that provides some resources, but mostly a shelter for women and families. I got to know these women because I would work around the clock at baseball, and then I would come home and got to know them and hear their journeys and how many left challenging situations in search of better opportunities, not only for themselves, but for their family members. And this was my aha moment where I really wanted to create a company that was dedicated to empowering women. Reloveution was born in 2013, and that's exactly what we do. We provide jobs for women who are transitioning out of shelters. We make unique, one-of-a-kind jewelry is what we're really known for, but now we've really morphed into promotional items and corporate gifts, all out of sustainable material. So in Detroit, we're really well known for making jewelry out of graffiti once it falls off the walls. But we also I don't think that's a question. I think that's just a noise. So, and then we also make it out of other iconic buildings and locations. So if, for example, your company is renovating a building, we can take that material and turn it into the corporate gift. Or we can come in and make mural experiences with your team as a team building, and then that becomes the gift. That has since continued on. I've now started another business in Detroit. We took an abandoned church and turned that into a cafe. So again, going back to my original statement that never in a million years thought that I would be completely dedicated to the world of entrepreneurship, but here I am. However, like to really hone in on the topic for today, I have had an opportunity to obviously go to law school, but I don't think you need to go to law school to be a good negotiator. I truly love negotiating. I do think it's an art form and not something that should be feared, although I totally understand the fear that comes with it. But I've learned to appreciate it and appreciate the challenge and taking it just as that. So with that, I'll kind of segue into to the presentation that I prepared for all of us today. Share screen. As a host.
You should be.
Okay, I think I am. Hold on. Let's share screen. Host. Share screen. There we go. Okay. I think my camera's working now, so I might turn off my phone. Pray that it stays. Okay. Hopefully you guys can all still hear me, but I want to just kind of go through what I consider the top 5 most important things in a negotiation. And one of the things that I think is the most, like, starting just on a high level, a lot of people will talk about going to negotiation like you're going into battle and you have to be on the defensive and constantly thinking about, the other person is the enemy. I don't approach it that way. I don't think that's the best way to approach it. I think that it should come from a place of, well, everybody should win. Okay. So why negotiation is important? Let's see. Strong negotiation skills empower you to confidently secure the resources you deserve. Negotiation is a valuable skill set that allows you to optimize deals for your business. And by honing your negotiation skills, you unlock opportunities to achieve your entrepreneurial goals. And when I say honing, I truly believe it does require a lot of practice. I practice negotiating with my 8-year-old son constantly. He's very good, it turns out. But I think that those are great places to start because you get a lot of pushback and you get a lot of questions. And that just makes you stronger. So my number one rule, and this is something that my mom instilled in me at a very young age, is why not ask? What's the worst they can say, is what she used to say to me. And I think this has made me, in some way argue, like, courageous when it comes to negotiation, because again, it's having that right mindset. You start negotiating with a positive attitude and the willingness to ask for what you want. You have the fear of rejection is understanding that the worst response you can receive is no. The realization can help reduce the fear of asking. And opportunities. Many times people will say yes when asked. By asking, you are creating those opportunities for success. And again, confidence. Asking assertively showcases your confidence, which can positively influence negotiation outcomes. So, for example, I just recently renegotiated my lease. I have 2 retail locations, about to open a 3rd, and money's been kind of tight, especially post-pandemic, and just the world is what it is. And I figured, I have these multi-year contracts. There's no way that many people, I would think, would say, well, there's no way, I agreed to the contract. But what's the worst they can say is no. Your contract is what it is. There's no need to negotiate, Amy. We have it in writing. However, it turns out when I reached out to the landlord and I had noticed that several other tenants had left that were around me, I said, would you be willing to renegotiate instead of us closing down our doors and leaving? And they said, yes, we're open to it. And sure enough, actually, right before this call, I was able to secure a longer term lease with a much more reduced rent. So that worked out for both of us, but it's having the mindset of the worst they can say is no, I might as well ask. I would approach even when I was working for the Tigers, I would approach even salary conversations around this, having this mindset. I would go in and what's the worst they can say? I'm no better off, but I'm also no worse off. So having that constant belief in yourself that the worst they can say is no, but at least you asked instead of always wondering what if. That supported with, so again, having that ability of what's the worst they can say is no, but then supported with really good facts, I believe are the 2 most important aspects to a good negotiation. So yes, you have to have the ask, but what makes it a really good ask is when you are supporting it with those facts. So research, understand the details related to the negotiation, and support your ask with the why behind it. Going back to that example that I just gave you with the rent, it wasn't necessarily, yes, I wanted a reduced rent, but I was able to show, and it's not like you have to have a tremendous amount of facts, but the stores around me were closing. I knew that the landlord, even at a reduced rent, was better off with me staying there than me abandoning our contract and leaving. So that's part of the research. Understanding what's normal square footage in that surrounding area. Using data, using factual data to support your arguments. Again, this adds credibility and strengthens your position. Some of the data that I used the landlord is that reduced foot traffic. Now, I personally believe that the foot traffic for downtown Detroit is going to increase, but we are in a bit of a transition period. A lot of that has to do with construction, but nonetheless, the facts are the facts. We have reduced foot traffic, so therefore, that was data that I could use. Be prepared for the potential counter arguments. You need to anticipate what the other party's needs and concerns are. You know that the landlord, for example, has to make money. They have to have it make sense for them. But you also know that if you were to leave, it's going to take that landlord at least 3, maybe 4 months to find another tenant, probably do the build out for that tenant. So that's an expense. So that also prepares you for that counter argument when they say, well, I need rent. Well, you can say, I understand. However, here's what I know is going to happen. That makes your argument much stronger. Information. Now, we all know, one of my favorite things, knowledge is power in negotiations. Being well-informed allows you to make better decisions and negotiate more effectively. The more you know about what's happening in your area or what's happening as far as square footage or even the economics of the area is going to help make that decision. Now, again, I'm using the rent example, but this applies to any sort of negotiation. The more informed you are, the better it will be. This one I think is so important, is setting a goal and being happy when you reach that goal. So what do I mean by this? You have clear objectives. Define what you want to achieve before you enter a negotiation. So I knew, for example, that I wanted my rent to be under $1,000 a month. That was really important. That helped with our bottom line. And that was my goal. Again, now as part of the negotiation, I'm going to see how far can I go below that $1,000, but that's truly ultimately what makes me happy. So again, satisfaction. Focus on achieving your set goals without dwelling on what might have been. This is critical. Because so often I see people come back and they're like, oh, they settled too easy. I only got it at $971. I probably could have got it at $951. You can't play that game. That doesn't help. My dad used to always tell me there was no sense in talking about a test after the test is over. You can't go back and change history. You can't go back and change time. But were you happy with how you did and how you answered the questions in the moment? Yes. Did you pass? Great. Even if you didn't, there's nothing you can do to change the outcome. So the same thing with a negotiation. If you are happy and you achieved your goal, you came in under $1,000, that was your goal, you should be satisfied with that. Goes to the next one is contentment. If you reach your objectives, consider it a success. This ensures you remain satisfied and positive with the outcome. Don't second guess yourself or don't go back afterwards and say, I think it should have been lower. Forward looking, avoid second guessing your decisions. If you meet your objectives, you've reached a happy landing place. Again, truly, truly important. This will set you up for success and you're able to celebrate your wins more and more. In a good negotiation, I firmly believe that everybody wins. Some people may argue this. Some people may say, I want to bury the enemy. I want to take that person down. But for me, a negotiation is successful when everybody mutually benefits. Aim for outcomes that meet the needs of both parties. Again, a successful negotiation leaves everyone feeling positive about the result. Collaboration. Work with the other party to find common ground and create solutions that benefit both sides. Long-term relationships. Win-win situations build trust and pave the way for future collaborations. I'm a big believer in never burn a bridge. Some people contradict this and say it's okay to burn a bridge. For me, part of it is where I live. Detroit is a very small town. It's important to maintain relationships. Sometimes I've even found myself in situations where I may sacrifice a little bit in a negotiation to maintain that relationship because I know it will serve me well in the long run in other opportunities. And finally, balance. Ensure your gains do not come at the expense of the other party's satisfaction. Balanced negotiations are sustainable and fair. So some people like to negotiate by holding all their cards to their chest. I think it's important to share what you want out of it. And there's varying degrees of that. So it's not saying show all of your cards, but going back to the example of the rent, I told them, I said, hey, to make our numbers work, we need to come down. We need to be under $1,000. We need to not pay for new signage because we can't afford that. I told them flat out, I didn't tell them exactly where I needed to be as far as what my where I wanted as the ultimate goal, or why I felt like I needed under $1,000. I'm sorry, it was important from my budget standpoint of under $1,000. That I didn't need to share with them, but just on the facts side of why, based on the surroundings, based on what's happening in Detroit, do I feel it was important to come in under? And they understood that. And I also understood they were very clear about explaining their plans for the neighborhood and what was happening. So we had a very good dialogue. There were still times that I had to be tough and lean into the fact that I really only could go so far. But those fluid conversations, I believe, are really helpful in a good negotiation. And finally, this is kind of hard to see with this panel. Let me move it down. This, I think, is the most challenging and something that I struggle with on a daily, is don't take it personally. They say it, business is business. This can be incredibly hard to do, especially for all of us on here who are entrepreneurs. This is our babies. We protect them sometimes more than we do protect our families. We take it personal when somebody says something about our business that may hurt. And it's important to remove that emotion. This is a work in progress. This is one of those things that you will constantly have to work on. So emotional detachment. Strive to separate your personal feelings from the negotiation process. Professionalism. Always keep your side of the street clean. I believe in it. Kind of goes back to not burning bridges. Maintain a professional demeanor regardless of the negotiations directions. And this is so hard to do sometimes. Perspective. Remember that negotiations are about reaching a mutually beneficial agreement, not personal validation. And resilience. Accept that setbacks are part of the process. These actually make you stronger. And it's always important to say during these setbacks that it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. That's been a mantra of mine that I've started saying over the past year and a half. And it's completely changed my outlook on the challenges that life presents as an entrepreneur. And then learn from each experience and move forward with a positive attitude. So an example I have of this, and this one was very personal. I just recently went through, there's no better way to say it, but I went through a divorce with my business partner. We'd been together for 10 years, but separating, your child is, your business is a child that you essentially created together. So it's very hard not to take it personal when you have different opinions, when somebody wants out of the business. And going through all of these steps helped me get through it. Again, saying over and over, it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. Realizing that even when we had to get lawyers involved, it was important, and I did not do the best job, truth be told, but it was important to remove the emotions from those. And I really had to have, I looked like this woman, honestly, right here in the corner. There's many times I probably sat in the corner and cried, but I had to get some good sleep and then come back the next day prepared with a strong argument and remove the emotional attachment and remain professional. Perspective. We both had a similar goal in mind. How we got there was very different, but remembering that we both wanted the same thing at the end of the day. And that's what I needed to keep focused on, not the personal validation of saying, oh, I was right the whole time, or getting angry. It doesn't serve anybody, but it's realistic. And then resilience, again, there were a lot of setbacks, but ultimately we got there, we closed the finish line, and we moved on. So this, I think, is incredibly important as well, closing out the top 5. And then, let's see, just kind of in conclusion, that negotiation is an art that involves courage, clarity, collaboration, and emotional resilience. By adopting the why not ask approach, it sets clear goals, aiming for, again, you always want to aim for those win-win situations, know your facts, and not taking outcomes personally. You can navigate negotiations effectively and achieve satisfying results for all parties involved. And last but not least, you got this. Don't worry, you absolutely have it. Feel free to ask for what you want, set your goals, strive for win-win, know your facts, and maintain professionalism at all times. The art of negotiation starts with the courage to ask, the wisdom to find balance, and the strength to remain detached. So that's everything for me. I'd love to open it up to questions if you guys have any.
Thank you so much. And so you shared information on that slide around how to reach you.
Yes.
If people are interested in getting involved with you and your work, there are some folks who came in after you did your little introduction. What services do you offer to the world? How should people reach out to you for more information about working with you in the future?
Sure. Well, I'm not a negotiation coach by any stretch of the imagination. I'm happy to share more insights if you guys have specific fields. But what I do, for those who just joined, I'm a social entrepreneur. I provide jobs for women who are transitioning out of shelters. We make one-of-a-kind promotional items and corporate gifts. We also offer team buildings and experiences. So if that's anything you guys are at all interested in, I am your person. Our gifts are sustainable as well as impactful. I also own a coffee shop here in Detroit, so I can be helpful in that regard. If there's a mistake out there, I've made it. I think one of the things I love to do is help people not make the same mistakes. I'm still making them. Lord, I had 3 giant boo-boos yesterday. But you live and you learn, and that's part of the process. They're learning opportunities. I've been in business 11 years. I've been running the coffee shop for 4 years. That we opened March 6th of 2020 after 3.5 years. So nailed it on the timing there, but luckily we've navigated and are doing well, and it's been a great space for our neighborhood. But those are the things that I'm heavily involved in, and yeah, I love entrepreneurs. You guys are awesome.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. So if you are tuning into the recording, thank you for watching. Please be in touch. If you need us, you can check out the comments on the video for information both about Amy and Reloveution. And I'm going to stop recording.